What was it, Jen? The second day, October 5th, 1986.
It's only been 2 days? Fuck!
It's been one day. It's been one night.
It's been a... Fuck!
But now... Oh! It's like, we're absolutely... Genji tightened his bow tie and looked outside through a crack in the curtains. Maybe the rain had died down a tiny bit since the previous night. But the thick rain clouds didn't seem like they'd be letting any trace of morning sun get by. Thick. The morning was dim and far from refreshing.
I feel lethargic right now. Like, I don't feel like I'm in my own body.
It seems it will last all day after all.
Sorry for keeping you waiting, Genji-sama. Cannon finished checking his appearance and exited the washroom. On their normal schedule, it was rare for anyone to have to suffer going straight from a midnight shift to an early morning shift. They were on a special schedule for the 2 days of the family conference. However, unless the typhoon passed today, the relatives' stay on this island would last until tomorrow. Cannon thought it best to be prepared for the special schedule to last an extra day. The two of them left the guest house, opening their umbrellas. The rose garden had been devastated by the wind and rain on the previous night. Even though they'd spent several days making it beautiful to welcome the guests, one stormy night was enough to ruin it.
Who would win? Two hardworking servants or one stormy boy?
Cannon sighed.
The story boy always wins.
It's so...
Literally how it goes with everything.
The two headed for the mansion. They were supposed to meet up with Goda and prepare breakfast. Goda was such a perfectionist that he had probably already woken up and was probably already preparing a breakfast as exquisite and elegant as glasswork. They reached the overhang by the entrance to the mansion and folded up their umbrellas. Genji took a bundle of several keys from his pocket and unlocked the front door. The Uchinomiya family mansion was the only thing on Rokkenjima, so in the past, they hadn't been in the habit of locking up. However, Natsuhi had ordered that the mansion be locked up from midnight to early morning. Ever since then, unlocking the door in the early morning had been part of the servants' morning shift. This task had been given to Genji and Cannon so that Goda could start preparing breakfast as soon as he woke up. Silence had fallen in the mansion, giving the impression that the mansion itself was still asleep.
Well then, let us begin on the morning chores.
Yes, sir. The two of them split up and began opening the curtains throughout the mansion. If the curtains stayed closed, the mansion would remain enveloped in faint darkness, as though it was still trapped in the previous night. Following a well-rehearsed procedure, Cannon went around the mansion, opening the curtains from one window after another.
You keep looking at me like that.
I'm sorry. Without having to retrace his steps. Without having to retrace his steps once. Even with this horrible weather, drawing the curtains made me feel just a little bit like morning. While doing that, he passed in front of the kitchen. Even though he hadn't smelled anything yet, his stomach started aching for some of Goda's prized cooking. Good morning. Huh? He tried to greet Goda, who should have been getting breakfast ready, but Goda was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen was darkly lit, and not only were the curtains not open, but the fan wasn't even running. It was still cold, without any trace of a fire being lit, so of course there were no signs of breakfast being made either. Though it would have been inexcusable, perhaps Goda had overslept. Even servants are only human. Now they're furniture. They sometimes sleep in and show up late. In the rare case that such a thing happens, it's part of a servant's code to hide the unsightly scene before anyone notices, smoothly cover it up, and make sure the family never even realizes that anything has gone wrong. Cannon took the receiver of the phone that had been fitted to the wall and dialed the number for the extension line in the servant's sleeping room. He couldn't hear that characteristic sound of a dial tone. Cannon tried picking up the receiver again, but even so, he couldn't hear the usual dial tone. He tried dialing again, but it had no apparent effect. Could the lightning last night have damaged some machine, breaking the extension line? The equipment in this mansion was all worn out. Cannon fully understood that even the smallest thing could have caused it to break down. He gave up trying to wake Goda with the phone and dashed over to the servant's sleeping room. Jesus, Nick.
I think you need to take some deep breaths before we continue.
No, keep going.
I think this is Natsuhi here, though.
Shh, shh.
Yeah, here he is. But just that first part.
How long has it been since I stopped sleeping and started lazily staring up at the ceiling?
That vague sense of awakening was part of Natsuhi's usual morning experience. She always slept lightly, and she couldn't sleep at all without medicine. To Natsuhi, sleep was definitely not a happy thing. When she looked outside, she saw that it was still pouring. If she hadn't sensed a tiny amount of light, she might have mistakenly thought that it was still the previous night. She herself was one of the hosts, so she mustn't wake up later than her guests. Urging herself on, she raised up her body, which still hadn't completely recovered from yesterday's weariness. No one would torment her as long as she remained inside this room, and her headache wouldn't get any worse here.
Fuck, that's so relatable, actually.
This room was the only place she could find peace. So when she left, it meant returning to the world where her husband's siblings kept trying to stab each other in the back.
Fuck, I hope that didn't happen.
In that case, wouldn't it be better to just stay locked up in this room forever? That ridiculous notion brought a bitter smile to Natsuhi's face. She was starting to sound like Kinzo. Though she often complained about Kinzo staying locked up in his own room and refusing to enter everyone else, the truth was that she longed to do the same. Natsuhi gave her head a small shake, and her fantasy was replaced by the reawakening of her usual headache. When she reached for the doorknob, trying to leave her room, her hand touched the scorpion charm that she had hung from it before going to sleep the previous night. It was Maria's charm, which Natsuhi had received from Jessica. Didn't Jessica say something about it having the power to repel magic, telling her to hang it from her doorknob? Maybe it was thanks to the charm that at least this room had been protected from the malice of her husband's siblings.
Blast your room.
Are you okay? What are you doing?
He's shaking. He's shaking like real fucking heavy.
Nick, what's gonna happen?
We're gonna keep going, Scott.
As she thought this, her mood
water.
began to get a little more cheerful.
I wonder if I have Jessica to thank for the little bit of peaceful sleep I managed to receive.
Then Natsuhi remembered. That's right. Last night, I promised Jessica that I'd give her... Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. Last night, I promised Jessica that I'd give her a charm of my own in exchange for this one, didn't I?
Natsuhi opened a drawer on her dresser and took out an antique accessory case that she had treasured when she was a child. Yeah. Inside, there were many small objects that Natsuhi had thought were valuable at the time. From amidst those, she pulled out a red pouch. Inside was a small round mirror about 10 centimeters across. It looked quite old, but the design on the back of the mirror was very ornate, and it felt like something with historical value. At the very least, it seemed much more authentic than the other charm, which looked like a plastic scorpion keychain. She had heard that this was a spiritual mirror for warding off evil spirits, and she had been given it specially by her grandmother, when her grandfather's mementos had been distributed. It had been believed since long ago that a strange power resided in this mirror. Perhaps people thought it could reflect calamity and malice in the same way it reflected light. Natsuhi returned the mirror to its pouch. It would probably be a fitting object to hand over to Jessica. Just as she was placing it in her pocket, the sound of someone knocking on the door suddenly echoed throughout the room.
Yes?
Good morning, madam. It is Genji. My apologies for waking you so early.
I'm coming now. What is it?
It's coming. No servant had ever come to her this early in the morning, nor had they come to wake her in person. Perhaps something bad had happened. Maybe some fatal oversight had been made while preparing breakfast, something that would shame the household in front of their guests. Natsuhi took a deep breath in anticipation for whatever troubles she was about to hear of. When she opened the door, Genji once again gave a morning greeting while bowing deeply. Natsuhi tentatively responded.
Good morning. Did something happen?
My apologies. It would seem that the telephones have broken down due to the lightning last night. The extension telephone isn't working, so please forgive my coming to see you directly.
The extension telephone isn't working. That will be troublesome. Will it be possible to fix it?
I am afraid we don't know the location of the damage. Later on, I would like to call in an expert and have him repair it.
Does that mean we'll be able to have it repaired until after the typhoon passes? Then it will remain broken down for the duration of our guest's stay. Will that hamper our efforts to care for our guests?
We will do all we can to ensure that there are no problems.
Very well. I'm counting on you to make sure we have no blunders.
Natsuhi let out a small sigh of relief. She had been prepared for the worst. But damage to the telephones wasn't the kind of trouble she was worried about. Then again, even this would probably be enough to spark sarcasm from Ava. Natsuhi gave her head a light shake.
Are the preparations for breakfast proceeding well?
As to that, we haven't been able to find Goda. The arrangements for breakfast have yet to be carried out.
What did you say?
Natsuhi was indignant. To her, this was a much bigger problem than the phones not working. Yeah, fuck, no breakfast? Jesus.
Honestly, yeah. Fuck phones. Fuck
And
food.
despite that, this piece of information was the part that had been postponed. Why did everything go well most of the time, and then come to something like this when their relatives were visiting? Natsuhi put her hand to her forehead and shook her head.
Won't be nothing. Well, I suppose he slept in. At any rate, just see to it that someone hurries and prepares breakfast. I don't care who. Well,
Natsuhi exited into the hall and turned around for a second to close the door to her room. The creepy thing she saw there silenced her completely. It was an unpleasant sight, as though someone had dipped their fingers in a reddish-black liquid and scratched at the door around the doorknob. It was probably some sort of awful prank, arranged by some person who wanted to make it look as though they tried to force the door with bloody hands.
what sort of prank is this? How awful.
I also just noticed it as I came to call you. I will clean it later.
But perhaps this is a vulgar joke made by one of the guests. Disgusting, truly disgusting.
Who in the world would pull such a childish and disgusting prank? Natsuhi had a pretty good idea, but of course there was no proof.
Fuck, Ava.
So even if she pushed the issue, it would just seem as though she was making a fuss about nothing. In fact, it would surely be better to act as though she hadn't even realized that such a prank had been played on her. Natsuhi gave the order to have it cleaned and headed off to the parlor with a squeak of her heels. Squeak, squeak. Ah. When Natsuhi and Genji arrived in the parlor, Ava and Hideyoshi were already there.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Natsuhi-san. I heard Goda-san will be making us breakfast, too. My stomach's been getting all excited since I woke up.
After all, it seems food is all you can look forward to at the head family household.
I'm pleased to see that you two are in high spirits so early in the morning, Ava-san.
With a weary expression, Natsuhi returned Ava's gaze, which was fiercely competitive despite the early hour.
Can they get one?
Then Cannon jogged in. I just,
Oh, God.
after the morning jog. After bowing an apology to their relatives for running inside the mansion, he noticed Genji and told him something in a small voice.
Kennen, have you still not found Goda?
My apologies, madam. I went all over the inside of the mansion and the guest house, but I still haven't found him.
Where in the world has he gone? At any rate, breakfast is a higher priority than finding Goda right now.
Damn.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck Goda.
Fuck Goda. He wasn't even from the
Dead to you.
orphanage. Fuck him.
See to it immediately.
Goda ain't even a fucking orphan. Fuck him.
Yes. Cannon glanced at Genji. It seems he had something else to report, but it was uncertain whether or not the word should come from him. Genji nodded and decided to give the report himself.
Madam, it is not only Goda. Your husband is also nowhere to be found.
My husband?
Yes. Even before visiting you, I went to his room to tell him that breakfast wasn't being prepared, but I did not find him there. Wait, he has his own fucking room?
Yeah.
Fuck. Natsuhi is too pure for
They
this
do
shit.
not fuck.
They don't fuck.
They don't fuck.
They are a very cold marriage.
Furthermore, he is not the only one missing. Rudolph Sama, his wife, and Rosa Sama are all nowhere to be found.
No.
Not in the guest house? Nor the mansion?
Yes. They were not in their rooms in the guest house either. When she'd heard that Goda alone was missing, she'd assumed that he had slept in or was loafing around somewhere. However, now that she'd learned that several of the relatives were also nowhere to be seen. She began to take a slightly more optimistic view.
I guess because, you can't disappoint your relatives if there aren't any relatives to disappoint.
I don't know, maybe Goda's entertaining the guests
Maybe.
with
Like-
Kraus? Maybe
Fuck,
Kraus is
Kraus-
let's have a discussion, bitches.
Cross is did dancing. Give it a dance.
Kraus,
Please keep reading, Scott.
Kraus is
Goda's
let me
doing-
threaten you guys with money. Goda, bring tea.
Goda does this fucking sick beatbox while he dances.
Boots and cats
Kraus
and boots and
dances.
cats.
Yeah, everything's all fine. All
It's all
hunky
good.
dory. Could last night's family conference have continued all night
Seductive.
up until the present moment? If so, they might have wanted to cool their heads after being shut in a stuffy room, going out for walks on their own through the rain. The part about cooling their heads really sounded like something Kraus would say, I guess. Goda had probably been summoned to accompany them and aid them in some way. Goda was not a man who lost track of time. He had to understand that the preparations for breakfast would be hindered if he did not return. However, maybe the family conference had continued until this very moment, with an atmosphere that would make it hard for anyone to slip out. Yes, that theory would be quite convincing for Natsuhi. She remembered the illusion she felt that morning, as though the previous night had never ended. When she learned that the feeling wasn't just an illusion, she once again took a deep, weary breath. After all, that banquet of filthy vultures circling Kinzo's property was still going on.
Perhaps they're still discussing the inheritance somewhere in the garden. Or maybe the beach. At any rate, if we don't call Goda back, we'll never be able to begin preparations for breakfast.
So, what you're saying, are Nissan and the rest still continuing their discussion?
She had planned to say it in a small voice, but Hideyoshi overheard Natsuhi and managed to grasp the situation.
Oh shit.
Nissan and Rudolph sure are tough. Maybe it's just youth in Rosa's case. Just a bit after midnight, the two of us were so tired we headed back to bed. Though I do remember that Nissan and the rest were still having a heated discussion at that point. Men certainly are unpleasant when they get all fired up.
Natsuhi snorted, her face still blank.
That's so... I can't imagine her doing that, actually. Cannon, search outside. If you find Goda, tell him to return immediately and begin preparing breakfast.
Certainly.
Natsuhine-san, we don't know for sure that they're outside, do we? Couldn't they also be inside Father's study? Who the fuck?
I see. That's certainly possible. No, it's not.
Fuck, I know.
I don't know what path their conversation took.
Oh.
But there's certainly a chance that they moved to Father's study and let him in on the discussion.
I can't imagine that father would willingly let them bring in such a detestable topic into his study.
You really think so? Well then, there's nothing we can do. I'm sorry, Genji-san, Kanin-kun, but could you search outside? It wouldn't be that strange for Nissan to suggest they go outside for a walk to cool their heads. Even in this weather. I'll go to Father's study. Who knows? They might actually be there after all.
Eva-san, I couldn't ask a guest like you to exert herself so. I will go. I can also wish him a good morning while I'm at it.
Oh, then I'll leave it in your hands. Though I somehow doubt he'll return your greeting.
Fuck.
Natsuhine-san, have you always been on such good terms with Father?
I don't know whether you call it that, or you could call it that, but I am sure that I have gained his trust as the wife of the successor to the Ushiromiya family.
Then I'm sure he'll at least answer you, right? I'd like to at least have breakfast with Father. Do you think you could convince him to come down and join us? It seems that he thoroughly despises the rest of us, and I'm sure he'll listen to you if he trusts you that much. After speaking so boldly, if you're unable to convince Father to come down alone, then I doubt you'll ever be able to claim that you've earned his trust again.
Shit.
I'm not confident, but I will try.
Natsuhi responded, looking discouraged. However, knowing Kinzo's temperament, she had absolutely no confidence in her ability to bring him out. Ava was clearly mocking her, confident that Natsuhi wouldn't be able to get Kinzo to come down. But even so, Natsuhi would lose face if she gave up, saying it was impossible, and letting Ava go instead. Ava's mean-spirited and unreasonable demand made Natsuhi clench her fist slightly. When Genji realized this, he softly spoke to her over her shoulder.
Madam, please, take this if you would.
And this is...
Genji handed Natsuhi a sparkling gold key of ornate design. It was the key to Kinzo's study. The study had an auto lock and couldn't be unlocked as long as Kinzo forbade entrance. However, since Genji was especially trusted by Kinzo, he was allowed to carry a key to that door.
But if this key is used, won't you also receive the blame?
When the master is sleeping deeply, simply knocking on the door will not suffice. And it would be more difficult to persuade the master to leave his room if you must talk through the door. Please use this.
Genji.
Until now, Natsuhi had thought of Genji as a cold servant who wouldn't do anything for her, since he worked directly under Kinzo. But it looked like she would have to alter her understanding of him. She wanted to communicate her gratitude, but by then, Genji had already turned his back on her and was walking down the corridor with Cannon. But as Natsuhi watched them go, the words directed at her from behind were sneering.
Well then, you must bring father with you, okay? After all, it's his son's precious wife who's asking. I'm sure he'll listen to you. We're guests, so we'll just relax here at our leisure.
Quit it, Ava. You're taking this too far. Sorry, Natsuhi-ne-san, but we're counting on you to deal with father.
Without answering, Natsuhi forcefully spun around on her heels and quickly left that place.
Fuck that.
I love being
God's plan.
Oh, damn. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was going to wake up early. Okay, so
George Aniki, Jessica, and I were snoring loudly on the beds in the cousin room. But Maria, who had gone straight to bed without joining in, was completely awake. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with the loud snoring of the other three cousins.
I guess Balor's not awake, but he was still like...
But he said I.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
She's got a little purse. If that's what you're saying, right?
No, but her hand.
So should you still narrate?
What's
Or?
that fucking
I guess
ball?
for consistency's sake.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
For a while, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother wasn't with her, and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him up.
I guess I narrate now.
Go for it.
After a while, Maria returned, once again opening the door with a lively bang.
Ooh!
When she had left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now that she was back, she looked irritated. After that, she climbed up on Battler's bed, which happened to be the closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline.
Ooh, ooh, ooh! Wake up!
So happy there's
Ooh.
below us.
What? Is it an enemy raid? Surround them!
Okay.
After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George Aniki's bed and started jumping on that too. In that manner, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening.
Extremely pleasant.
Fuck, yeah.
Thanks for waking us up, Maria-chan. You stopped us from sleeping in after that late night.
A fucking Shannon.
If only you could have been a bit more gentle about it.
Like me.
Yeah.
I fucking hate you. I fucking hate him. That ugly ass green, yellow piss jacket.
George
the
is going up to that
anime
clother and he's like,
shades.
make me look like an unripe banana.
Make me look like...
He's like, I got you, fam.
Make me look like an unwrapped banana.
Fucking hell.
Fuck, George.
Fuck! That ugly ass motherfucker. I hate him. Okay.
God, we got to roast George one last time.
Damn, that's pretty fucking
That's
ominous.
ominous. I hate the reverse. Like, instead of a white shirt and a black tie, he has a white tie and a black shirt. I just noticed that. I hate it.
I like it.
I like Jessica's tie. Fuck, red. That's
Fuck
cool.
yeah.
Anyways,
George Nissan, you really are an adult.
an adult.
I respect that.
It'll be 7 soon.
What the
Well,
fuck?
it's not really a bad time to wake up.
Yeah, no one slept in. Fuck. Good thing they're waking up at 7.
I haven't
Jesus.
woke up at 7 in like a year.
Honestly.
I wish I could say that.
Ugh. Wait, no, you
Back to
have.
your
You're not fertile,
classes.
bitch.
Ooh! Mama's not here. Ooh.
Aunt Rosa? She wasn't in her room? I wonder if she's already woke up and gone to the mansion.
Shut the fuck up.
Sorry.
Not here! Ooh! Mama! Ooh! Honestly, yeah.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
Maria kept groaning ooh and looking unhappy. She didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mother wasn't where she had expected.
Like their roots.
If we could just tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down. But unfortunately, we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here.
Anyway, it's time for breakfast, so let's head over to the mansion.
That's right. Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay?
Actually, if Maria woke me up at, like that at fucking 7, I would fucking like squeeze her to death.
Why?
Hi, Decker.
You guys are too harsh on
I
Maria.
no, my siblings have tried to wake me up like that at 7 in the morning. Generally like that, my first reaction is to lash all my limbs at them.
That's fucking scary.
Fucking don't wake me up in a manner that's not like, hey.
I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there too. Ooh! Mama's in the mansion? Then I'll go there. Ooh!
Yeah, guess we should go to the mansion. Our parents have probably already gone there.
Maria regained her usual composure so completely, her earlier tantrum now seemed like a lie. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion.
Nick is having, like,
Is like those like long like shots there like make like stress me out.
Yeah, I know.
I think he's about to pass out.
Oh shit. Not yet. Once more there was a knocking sound on the study door. But there was no answer.
He seemed to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him.
If she went back downstairs and said something like that, Ava would probably be amused and triumphant. And even putting Ava aside, it was problematic that Kingzo had stayed shut away during this entire once-a-year conference, not even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially the family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. I wonder if I can convince him myself. Natsuki readied herself and used the key that she'd borrowed from Genji to open the door.
Someone might need to take over decorating for Scott.
Yeah.
We're about to have a moment.
I gotta both fucking get up at this mic,
get
actually.
hot.
Even though she was prepared for the sweet stench, would seem to eat into one's brain as it poured out of the small crack in the door, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking that he might still be sleeping, Natsuki entered the room quietly. When she did, Kingzo was already awake and looking down out of the window.
So you're awake. Good morning.
How did you get in? Kingzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsuki was slightly reassured. However, even though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsuki wasn't able to relax.
Relatable. My sincere apologies. I asked Genji-san and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study.
Huh? Genji did? If my friend thought it was that important, then I have no choice but to listen. So, what business do you have with me?
Well, breakfast will be ready soon and I would greatly appreciate it if you would join us.
I will eat here. Have it brought here like always.
But father, this family conference happens only once a year. Please, at least let them see your face.
Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as they discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? How foolish. Let them speak of such matters as much as they please without me. And if that's what you call a family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for it. I am busy, Do not bother me. His last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. She didn't look forward to facing Ava's sarcasm, but there was nothing more Natsuhi could do.
Is that so? Understood. I am sure everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them.
Natsuhi decided to give up. Bowing silently, she tried to leave the room before Kinzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. Never seen that word before in my fucking life.
Neither have I.
As she did, Kinzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle, it felt like it came from an entirely different person. Natsuhi, it has been quite some time since you married into the Ushiromiya family.
Yes. It has been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Ushiromiya.
Do you sometimes long for your previous family?
No. Marriage means abandoning your birth family. I am Ushiromiya Natsuhi. The Ushiromiya family is the only family I can come home to. The only one I am fond of.
She truly wasn't exaggerating. Such was the resolve she felt whenever she applied the Ushiromiya family name to herself. And that's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like an Ushiromiya, leaving her to race about in vain. If Kraus were a woman, and you his husband... No, I won't say that.
I won't gender bend my sibling. My son.
Let's not make fanfiction about my kids.
What do you mean by that, Father?
Natsuhi was shocked. If Kinzo's words just now were what they seemed, it would have been more than enough to make up for all she'd suffered up to that point. She probably stopped moving around so much. Forget it. It's just the nonsense of an old man. Kinzo once again faced away from her.
I like you better than my son.
He told her to forget it, but Natsuhi couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart.
Father, even though I, Natsuhi, am not connected to you by blood, I am still your daughter. I will most assuredly see to it that your honor and glory, and everything you have left behind, are protected.
You do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle. However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your heart. That is irrefutable proof that you are my blood relative, one who will inherit the glory of the Ushiromiya family. Some will sneer that there's no eagle on your clothes. But such words are not worth lending an ear to. Only those who hold the eagle in their hearts are my true blood relatives. I now consider it an honor that you were welcomed into the Ushiromiya family. Without saying anything more, Kinzo remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, Natsuhi couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago when she had been just a child. Natsuhi bowed silently to his back and left the room.
I was about to say, if you two don't hug after this, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
The scene is, we've been like waiting for the scene for a long time.
I'm so, you know what? That just made me very happy. I fucking love Kinzo. He's like, well, if you were a son, fucking, I'd love you more than my son. Any of my kids, actually. Because fuck all of them. All my children are trash.
Natsuhi
personally
did nothing
said this.
wrong.
Honestly.
Honestly, yeah. She's kind of was slow to reproduce.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Her only sin.
Sin, man. Good timing. How is father? You were taking so long, so I came to check.
When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Ava climbing the stairs and their eyes met. Ava was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsuhi would leave grudgingly after failing to convince Kinzo. However, the way Natsuhi was now, such a frivolent laugh would not disturb her. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of the one who would protect the Ushiromiya family's glory.
Father said he would not join in on the family conference. He says he has no interest in discussing such obscene matters.
I figured you'd say something like that. If you fail to persuade father, just say so.
How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why father lamented so.
What do you mean by that?
Natsuhi did not answer. Just as Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Ava her back as she headed down the stairs.
Shit.
Ava,
Turn 360 degrees
And walk away.
Ava finally realized that she was being made fun of, that something had happened to quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. Even so, she apparently didn't have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue, make a motion as though scratching at it, and follow after Natsuhi.
So, were Nissan and the rest there? Did you ask Father about them?
I didn't get a chance to ask, but they were not inside the study. Father would never let them into his room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it's unlikely he knows where they went. We'll just go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Eva-san?
That would be fine.
Eva couldn't hide her confusion at the complete difference in Natsuhi's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Eva hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Eva could only follow Natsuhi back to the parlor.
Look at that fucking smug-ass smile.
That's like
She's so happy. She's glowing.
I love her.
I
That's the
I
type
love
of
her
smile
too
you
now.
protect
God
now,
damn it.
damn.
When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had been joined by the 4 children and Nanjo. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation, when he noticed that Natsuhi had returned.
You still have not found my husband and the rest.
Yes, my apologies. Also, Kumasawa has started preparing breakfast. She said that she will just need a little longer.
The clock read a little past 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock should have been the time to start breakfast. Normally, going over that time limit would be a disgrace to the host.
Cannon is now searching outside. Also, no one has seen Shannon either.
Even Shannon's missing. Truly, just how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk? Fuck, you ever just walk?
You ever just walk and bring half
Actually,
the staff
yes.
with you?
Just how many people had gone missing by now? Now that the number was this large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant, as though the people here were the only ones being left out of something interesting. At least that seemed to reflect the feelings of the children, and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. The other children were flipping through the channels on the television, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up again. Nanjo was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. It must have been a book about chess, I guess, because he likes that.
Yeah,
I
Nanjo
don't
likes
know,
chess.
like probably. The sound of footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so they realized before seeing who it belonged to that it was probably Cannon, not Kraus and the rest.
Actually, someone else took that.
Madam, excuse me.
Judging by your appearance, you still haven't been able to find them.
Damn.
My apologies, I still haven't.
That will be enough. You've worked hard.
She didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on this island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come plodding back of their own accord before long. By now, Natsuhi was thoroughly exasperated and starting to feel that there was no reason for them to go out of their way and search.
I will go to the kitchen and prepare some tea for all the guests. Thanks to both of you for all your hard work so early in the morning.
Natsuhi left the parlor, acting as though the release intention had caused a new surge in her headache. Cannon tried to call her back, but Natsuhi left swiftly.
What is it? Was there something else?
Yes. I was unable to find her husband or anyone else, but, well, Cannon sounded evasive. It looked as though he didn't know where they were, but he spotted something that might be connected to their disappearance. Eva and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. They probably picked up on something strange in Cannon's behavior.
What's going on, Cannon-kun? Did you find Kraus-san and everyone else?
Actually, the Rose Garden storehouse looked strange.
What do you mean it looked strange?
It was, how should I explain it? Cannon hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what you'd expect from this usually fearless boy. Seeing this, Eva and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously.
What do you mean? Are you saying Nissan and the others were inside the storehouse?
No, I am going to inspect the inside now. I just now came back to get the key, but,
I don't really get it, but this sounds like we just gotta look around inside it. Where's the key to that storehouse?
It is in the servant room. Let us check inside the storehouse at once.
Oh, fuck. I'm feeling bad.
Cannon dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check, but then Eva and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was this something strange about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Cannon to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity over this something that Cannon couldn't talk about won out. While the children made a big fuss watching television, Cannon and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The Rose Garden Storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building. Because of its appearance, it had been built so that it was hidden in a corner of the Rose Garden. Ken, Genji, Ava, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the Rose Garden, holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the Rose Garden, which is normally off limits for those appreciating the garden and only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down that, the storehouse came into view in front of them.
Green?
It was quite an old shed, and compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the Rose Garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard-to-see place. Ava and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Kanon and Genji.
Ha! Ha! You two sure are fast. I thought my heart was gonna explode.
Want a diet, old man.
What did you say to your husband?
Damn. Cold.
Well done, Eva. I never knew they had a storehouse way over here. But what is that?
When Ava looked where Kanon was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi also followed Kanon's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak.
Nani?
The entrance to the
Let's
store.
not joke around, please. I'm fucking dying.
Calm this down. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter, and there, everyone suddenly realized why Kanon had been unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to wind and rain for so long, stuck right on it, there was something that looked like a strange dark red liquid? Mucus? Or maybe it was some sticky paint. An indescribably eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood, leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Some kind of mark was drawn there, with a ghastly substance that looked like blood, and a shape that seemed to suggest something ominous. 2 circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The 4 ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and looked like some kind of crest from somewhere around Europe. And in the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters, or possibly symbols.
What a vulgar bit of graffiti. Could this be one of those? One of those magic circles used in demonic ceremonies?
It wasn't surprising that Hideyoshi would say that about such a ghastly shape drawn with a deep red, dripping substance.
When was this made?
There was nothing drawn here when I came by yesterday, before it started raining.
We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they laid eyes upon it, it would cause them great discomfort.
That's right. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second longer than I had to.
There is some paint inside the storehouse. Let us paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure, then repaint it again someday when the weather is good.
Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another scribble, and that it too had been made with a strange dark red substance of the same color as this. That must have been... That's right. He had seen it on the door to Natsuhi's room.
Fook.
Kanon-kun, let's remove the scribble quickly and go back, okay? Even though it's just a storehouse, it's really irritating to have graffiti around the home I was brought up in.
Yes, ma'am. I will take care of it immediately. Kanon squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all his strength. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, that ominous drawing disappeared from the direct gaze, and they all breathed a sigh of relief.
Oh, you think we're gonna see inside that? No.
No, I do not.
Especially what the kids are up to.
Yeah, man. Anyways, this might be you. Yeah.
Thanks to the kids program they came across, Maria was feeling much better.
Battle and Jessica were poking fun at the kids show at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective.
Oh, so George became a brainlet now. Alright.
Man child.
He was already a brainlet. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading Quality. Probably about chess.
Quietly.
Because like he likes that, I guess.
Ah, yes, the rook.
They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of four that had just left? It was Genji. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of a servant's virtues, to be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him.
Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Please, come with me, quickly.
What is the matter?
As Genji whispered something in Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from the sofa, trying to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV, and the two of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsuhi, who was pushing a servant cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something in Natsuhi's ear, and Natsuhi went pale too in apparent shock. Then, leaving the servant cart where it was, the three of them dashed towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window.
What's that? Isn't that Genji-san and Dr. Nanjo and that's Aunt Natsushi, right? Isn't it? Fuck.
Natsuhi. What's up, Aniki?
Maybe something's happened. They look terribly flustered.
Get out of my fucking way, Scott.
When Jessica and Maria saw that Aba, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the servant cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor, they also realized that something was the matter.
Could there have been some kind of accident?
Well, let's go check it out. It's no fun for the only ones left out, right?
For some reason, what Battler said sounded extremely indiscreet, but they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain without regards to their appearance.
Let's check it out, okay? I'm worried something might have happened.
Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them.
Hey, Maria, are you coming too? Or will you watch TV? Ooh! Wanna watch TV? Ooh!
I really...
Let's go on without her. Maria-chan, we'll be back soon. You keep watching TV, okay?
Ooh! Oh shit. Oh my god.
By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a good idea where they'd gone, judging by the direction they'd been running. Following Jessica, we ran through the rains.
We ran through the rain-soaked garden. The wind suddenly seemed to get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to rumble like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island and was trying to stop us from moving forward. Jessica, is there something over this way?
I'm pretty sure there's a shed for the gardening tools or something. What in the world could be going on in a place like that?
Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open. Several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse. Without even holding an umbrella, she looked like she was hanging her head and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, and Natsuhi, who had just left the mansion. The ones who'd left earlier, Kanon, Ava, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people. But there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsuhi realized the children were approaching, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. You mustn't come any closer! Go back to the mansion! But despite that, no, because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsuhi was trying to keep away from them. Inside the storehouse with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down, and right there was... Jessica's piercing shriek ran out. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. Ava spread her arms just like Natsuhi, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face.
George, take everyone and return to the mansion! Quickly! Right now!
When Natsuhi spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. But that wasn't why Ava was spreading her arms right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart, trying to protect the eyes and the hearts of us children by blocking our views of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. Is this some kind of joke? Is it? I've seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, anime, and movies. I've seen it over and over again. This was just Just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen it plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't... But that suit, it's that old bastard's, isn't it? I get it. Then that's Uncle Kraus. And Kyrie-san and Aunt Rosa. Ugh.
Dad!
You mustn't, Jessica. You mustn't go in. You mustn't look.
Dad!
How do I turn this up, Scott? Rigor mortis must have set in across the entire body. Most likely, 6 or more hours have passed since death. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area, there's a high probability that they were damaged after their deaths. No, I must watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner. Examining corpses is outside my area of expertise.
So what's going on here? Just killing them wasn't enough, so they went on and do something like this?
Jesus.
Oh, we're getting PR and duty call.
The devil! This is the work of the devil!
Aunt Nazi caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava caught George Aniki. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there'd been someone there to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to have this horrible, evil scene burned into my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there was no one there to catch me. The people who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it looked like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle and a hammer, some carpentry tools and a saw, piled up potted plants and bags of fertilizer, and treated just the same. The corpses of several people had been laid to rest there. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kyrie-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda-san and... Are there still more of them? How many people died? You're fucking kidding me! That's more than I can count on one hand! Damn it! I don't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools, which if used for some other than their intended purpose could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality, or some horrible tool that had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, each one of them had their bodies jammed in here, had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like their faces had been plowed. Their faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were, but I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. But their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all this were torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spent so much time on, even though you're a man, isn't doing a thing now. Ugh! Dad! I always thought you were going to hell, but still not like this, right? You weren't such a son of a bitch that you had to suffer such brutality. And Kyrie-san, didn't I tell you to stop going out with this guy? There's absolutely no reason for you to end up like this, too. They've got no faces. No faces. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Ah! Battler-san, you mustn't look anymore. There's no way your mother and father would want you to see them like this. For their sakes, you mustn't look anymore. Dead people are supposed to have faces that look like they're sleeping peacefully, right? They've got no faces. My dad and Kyrie-san have no faces. I don't know even what kind of faces they were wearing when they died. What's wrong with me? Well, I have to see these smashed monster-like faces every time I remember them. That's just great. I didn't want to remember that old bastard's smug face anyway. Just great, just great! But why even Kyrie-san's face? Kyrie-san wasn't a crook. Sure, she ticked me off a bit now and then, but she was like a cool big sister to me. This is wrong. This is all wrong. At least Uncle Kraus is better, doesn't he? It's not his whole face, just the side. At least he's got half his face, right? That's still better, that's still better!
No!
Jessica filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words.
Stop it, Battler-kun! Just stop it! Just stop it!
Aniki! Aniki! Ah! Disregarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as I was crying on behalf of everyone there, representing the feelings of everyone there. I screamed over and over. I'm sweating really hard, actually.
Knock, knock, knock. R.I.N. Diddy.
Fuck.
Father. The ones lying dead. Well, lying over there are Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kyrie, and Aunt Rosa, and Goda-san. Just those 5, right?
No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over there.
The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George, who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. So George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right.
So, the one lying at my feet is Shannon, isn't it?
Yes. It's Shannon Chan.
Is that me? George fell completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body, screaming and crying. However, before rashly rushing forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father.
Is Shannon the same as Uncle Kraus and the others?
Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Or rather, he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others or not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state.
Can I look at Shannon?
No! You can't!
Why not? After all, I won't be able to see Shannon's face again, right? So why won't you let me see what her face looked like at the end?
The last time you met Shannon Chan was yesterday, right?
Yes.
I see. When you left her, what kind of face was she showing you?
It was a wonderful smile.
After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then she looked bashful, and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That's the expression that was revived in George's mind.
I see. Then I'm sure Shannon Chan would want to leave you with that smile in your memory.
Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of her expression remained. If the remaining, blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers have peeked out? But only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, then if only all of it had been crushed, he might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while proving beyond doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhumane, how brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes, as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Cannon. Fuck. Cannon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative.
George! I'm sure Shannon Chan is saying thank you. She must be glad you didn't end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure she's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint.
I understand. I understand, Father. I understand.
George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply.
Father, I have a request.
What is it?
I want you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger?
A ring? Let me see.
Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands.
Yeah, there is. It's a diamond ring with a valuable diamond. Must have been pretty expensive.
And which hand? And which finger is it on?
The ring finger of her left hand. I see. So Shannon Chan was engaged?
George? Don't tell me you...
I hate how Ava's about to
Ava!
start some shit right here.
That doesn't matter now.
Fuck it.
A man made a lifelong promise to Shannon Chan. A man promised her happiness for life. Who that man wasn't isn't the issue here. Being told that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it? I don't know when she received this ring. I also don't know who gave it to her. However, even so, Shannon Chan took this ring. Then she accepted it and put it on her left ring finger. I'm sure the man who gave it to her was also happy.
To most of the people there, Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words.
I see. Thank you, Father.
George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to its usual calm one.
Let's go. Battler-kun, Jessica Chan. If we stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults. You're right.
Jessica sniffled once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time, to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile.
Battler, hang in there.
Battle kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies.
I'm sorry. Crying like hell calmed me down. You bastard, Dad. I bet you're laughing at me. After all that shit I talked about you, here I am crying like a baby just because you died. Well, so what? I guess I just got the gene that makes you cry when your parents kick the bucket.
Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he had at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a bitter one.
Cannon, you mustn't remain here any longer either. Take the children and return to the mansion.
Natsu had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility, now that her husband was dead, she gave Cannon those orders. Yes, madam. Cannon rose silently and turned to face me. Oh.
His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon. And there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Cannon might have led the way. But now there was no distinction between Cannon and the children. They were now just kids of the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them.
After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsuhi started to give orders to Genji.
Genji, contact the police immediately. They probably won't be able to come until the typhoon passes. But they should be able to tell us what to do next.
Understood. There is an emergency radio, so I will use that to contact them.
When she heard that, Natsuhi remembered. That's right, the phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio since they couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait.
Dr. Nanjo, is there anything more you can do here? Unfortunately, there is nothing I can do. Understood. Genji, could you at least cover their faces with something? Exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Genji picked up several dried-up towels from inside the storehouse when Ava stopped him with a shrill voice.
Wait a second. Stop. This is the scene of a crime, isn't it? Then we mustn't disturb it. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right?
Natsuhi glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. so they needed to be able to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could to aid the police, preserving clues that might help catch the detestable culprit.
I agree with Eva-san. Until the police come, we should leave everything be.
What do you say, madam?
You're right. Very well. Close it up. And just in case, we should put a different lock on it.
A different lock?
Yes. When we came here, the shutter was locked. That means the culprit used the key to the shutter to lock it.
That makes sense. So, does that mean the key that opens the shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it?
I'm sure it'll be worth submitting to the police as evidence. But Canon-kun usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed just now. It'll probably have Canon's fingerprints on it. Also, the key was handed to Genji-san just now, and he took it with his bare hands. It doesn't look like it'll be very useful as evidence.
That was careless of me. My apologies. Genji-san, are there any other keys to this storehouse? No. Only this one. So the culprit walked out of the servant room with that key, and then was nice enough to return the key to where they found it.
Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but was actually very strange if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning a key they stole? Now, if you think about it even more deeply, there are some points that are even more bizarre. When a criminal hides a body, they're usually trying to delay the point at which it will be found, so they can use that time to escape. The 6 weren't necessarily killed there, but it was reasonable to assume that they were killed somewhere on this island, carried to the storehouse, and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. And yet, the eerie magic circle scribbled on the storehouse shutter had eloquently indicated the location of the hidden corpses. Surely, it didn't explicitly mention the corpses, but 6 people had gone missing. In that situation, someone had made such an obvious piece of graffiti, and even returned the key to the shutter, almost as though they wanted the corpses here to be discovered.
Anyway, we can't put all our faith in a lock that the culprit has opened once before. If we want to protect this place from the culprit's hand, I think we should put a new lock on it. I think that is a good plan. I agree.
Genji fished around inside the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock that had been inside a small box.
What should I do with the key?
I will take it. I will take responsibility and hand it over to the police.
Natsu took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, they all exited and lowered the shutter. And so the corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, which was still covered with that creepy magic circle. Genji crouched down in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. Shutters often have a place in front where you can attach your own lock in addition to the main lock of the shutter. This is one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there, ominously. With its closed shutter still covered in a blood-like creepy substance, it swallowed up the bodies of the 6. To Natsuhi, putting the new lock on wasn't mainly to preserve the scene for the police. She might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent that eerie beast from swallowing up any more victims.
Come on, let's go, everyone. Dr. Nanjo, thank you very much for your work. Genji, hurry and contact the police.
I will do so as soon as I return.
The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn on the shutter kept its 6 bodies in its throat, looming eerily as the lightning occasionally lit it up.
What the fuck?
What time is it, real fast?
1:30.
Yeah, let's
In the
call it
game?
here. Holy
No, I
fuck.
meant in the game.
Oh, good old 9 a.m.
Okay.
Starting our day off right.
Alright, what a way
I
to
hate
start a
this.
day.